Hello and welcome to your Friday edition of Your Daily Detroit. It is March 25th, 2022, and from east of Woodward, I'm Jer Stays.
And from west of Woodward, I'm Devon O'Reilly.
On today's show, we're talking about some new things around town, we do a little bit of marijuana business reporting, and we discuss the possibility of an Apple store. I know, crazy. So, Devon, before we get going, what are you drinking?
Well, Jer, it was recently officially Oberon Day in Michigan here. March 21st was the official day, so I've got myself a fresh Oberon.
Ooh. And what is that named after? Because, I've always wondered that. It's a Michigan beer, but yeah. I imagine, I don't know where Oberon comes from.
Right, and it's got kind of the cool sun logo and the orange and blue colors. So it's actually named for the king character in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream.
Really? How poetic.
Interesting reference point, right? Yeah, Larry Bell. God bless him. I'm sure he concocted that one up.
Well, me, I am a lot more basic. I just have my cold foam cold brew. I do like to support the independent shops, but when I've got to get an early start, like an early start, my guilty pleasure chain is Starbucks. And the great thing about them is that they are always reliably open at like 6 a.m., whereas a lot of the indie spots, they kind of start opening around 9. Sometimes for me, when I've got one of those days, you just got to have it.
No, I get you, Jer. I mean, I love all our independent small business coffee shops, and I definitely frequent them. But there's some sense of kind of reliability with Starbucks, and we've got also, I think, like 4 of them.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally all over the place, even in Detroit. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when having a Starbucks in Detroit was like a big deal. Now it seems pretty commonplace.
Oh my gosh! So you've got one at Mack and Woodward. You've got one next to Campus Martius. You've got another one. The newest one is at the Marquette Building, and that replaces the one that was at the Fox Theater. And the one in the Marquette Building, what a cool space! I remember when it was an independent coffee shop years and years ago, and then it was quiet for a while. And then there's that Starbucks there, and it really has a big city feel to it. Like when I've traveled around, it's very cool, and it's right across from Kobo. So as all that stuff turns back on, I think that's going to be a pretty popular spot.
Yeah, that's a really cool Starbucks. Each of the ones downtown has their own unique flavor too. I like the one that's closest to where I usually am is the Starbucks in the Westin.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
It's a Starbucks Reserve, Jer. So
that's right. It's fancy.
I don't know exactly what it means, but it looks pretty fancy inside and has all the new drinks and bells and whistles. So pretty cool.
Before we get started, we have some business to attend to. Today's episode is sponsored by Challenge Detroit, and we have talking points, Devon. Talking points.
Talking points, Jerry. I feel so official.
Challenge Detroit is a full-time job opportunity to get involved in Detroit, perfect for a recent college graduate, someone looking for a career change or challenge, and people passionate about Detroit and making a difference in their communities. It provides opportunities to collaborate with multiple Detroit-based nonprofits on strategic, intellectually based, community-focused projects to support them in moving their missions forward. You can join the network of over 300 Challenge Detroit alumni who continue to engage and support the program.
Well, Jared, you didn't need the talking points for this. I could have told you all this. I was a Challenge Detroit fellow myself back in the day.
So what is the biggest thing that you got out of the program?
I would say the immersive experience. You truly kind of you live the revitalization of Detroit. The Challenge Detroit gets you on the ground and into the places, the rooms, the spaces that all this is happening. And so the immersive experience of Challenge Detroit was just incredible when I did it.
Well, applications close on April 13th, and you can apply online at challengedetroit.com/application. That's challengedetroit.com/application. All right, Devon, where have you been? Because I have been seeing all kinds of Instagram stories where you have truly been the man about a town, but less so on the restaurant side and more on the, oh my gosh, these things look great side.
Yeah, Jerry. I mean, there are probably more cranes in the sky around Detroit than there have been in God knows how long. And the one that I've always been keeping my eye on was everything happening around Michigan Central. So get used to saying this, first of all, Jerry, because that's what Ford is kind of branding this. So when we say Michigan Central, what we mean is the train station and the surrounding campus that includes a building that is yet to be built. So they're going to do a new build there, and then Book Depository building, which is what it sounds like, the old school Book Depository building, which is, I think, over 100,000 square feet of just open industrial space that is currently underway. And, people think about the train station as like, oh, this project that's going to be done in 2023 or what have you. The Book Depository building is the first focus project of this kind of campus redevelopment. And so this is going to be online by later this summer. We're talking about September here. So we're going to see this come online soon.
I remember lots of, lore and scary stories about the Book Depository because it's sat empty for a really long time. And it stunned me in the pictures you shared about how bright it is inside. Can you kind of explain that to people?
Yeah, and that was done intentionally. So, first they just kind of tore everything down, and I was able to get a front row seat for this, Jared, because of, again, my 9 to 5 hat, as it were. So I was kind of toured around by Ford with a group of different stakeholders in the business, entrepreneurial, innovation space in Detroit. So it was a pretty cool experience, and they took us through and they kind of explained what they were trying to do, and they cut some big pieces out of this, Jared. So if you think about like a normal, what would be an industrial building, it's just kind of complete floor plates. What they did is cut out huge swaths of the middle of the building to create this open air, almost atrium right up the middle into a kind of greenhouse type of glass atrium top. So they're really retrofitting this pure industrial building to be more of a open, bright event gathering innovation space. So they definitely did some modifications, Jared, where it starts, they've basically cutting cement out of the floor and creating just this open atrium that's really cool.
And it's got a huge skylight, like huge.
Yes, they're bringing a lot of light in there. It's going to be an open innovation space, Jared. And I guess that sounds broad, but what it means is it's really going to be a kind of a come one, come all. They've got New Lab, which is a company out of New York City that's opening some design studios that's going to really help kind of spur some of this innovation. So basically, what are people going to see, Jared? When you come to that space in September or October, there's going to be startup companies, entrepreneurs. There's going to be larger companies that are working on testing things. So they're getting everything from like CNC machining, 3D printing, cutting tools, electric charging stations, all going to be on site and able to be kind of used as like an open innovation space. So this is going to be like the tinkering space of the Michigan Central project. So it's really cool for anyone who is an entrepreneur or who's more of an engineering mind, who kind of likes to tinker and wants to see what startup companies are up to around here. That's going to be this space.
So what strikes me about this campus is that it's a lot different than many of the previous super projects we've seen in the past. Like I think about the Rensen and their berms, or kind of creating like almost a security division with this idea that, we're going to set this away from everything else in the city. And that has been the pattern of development for many, many, many years. I don't sense that the case here.
Yeah, they're being real intentional about this. And we actually had a discussion after the tour, and we kind of had a design thinking type of session where Ford asked of the group gathered, kind of, what do you want to see this space to be? What do you want to see this space as? What do you want it to be? And one of the things that came up, Jared, was the Rensen and how we don't want to see another Rensen. And I just say that in the sense that we don't want this kind of walled off fortress where people go to work and people go to kind of be there and experience the space, and then they just stay there and they just get in their cars and they go home. True development, when we talk about economic development and revitalization, what that would be is people working, living, and playing in this space. And so Ford talked about they're going to have 5,000 employees to start with the other companies that come on. There's going to be almost 10,000 people probably on a daily basis working and existing in this Michigan Central space. And they want them to be able to get out and experience the rest of the city, to eat, to drink, to shop, to spend their time in the city, and that will spur true economic development. And so that's what they're really intentional about. And I think that's one of the most exciting parts is you're going to have 10,000 more people who are looking to either live or to hang out in the city, go to frequent our favorite restaurants and bars and shops and things like that. And that'll be a huge, huge economic driver.
You mean they don't want it to be a Ford-trist?
No, Jer, quite the contrary. So it's going to be cool. They're even going to they're talking about micromobility. They're going to have, like scooters and bike share and things to get people off the campus and into the city. We talked about the Joe Louis Greenway. It's like basically the whole plan is to get all these people down there and then let them go explore the city.
I mean, that corner of town is never going to be the same.
No. So, Jer, I kind of noticed, but I haven't in my wanderings downtown been able to check out one of these new kiosks that have been downtown. Have you seen these?
I in fact have. That is the thing that I wandered and saw when I was doing some errands this week. I'm not exactly sure how to call it, the Ike or Ike kiosks. They're pretty cool, actually. Now, I thought I recognized these because these are also in downtown Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, one of your favorite places.
It's interesting because this is a full screen kiosk and it's not e-ink. It's like an active display that you can touch and interact with. And you can even play games on it, even though I'm not sure why you would. I did just to try it because I thought it'd be fun. But I reached out to the company. I hope to hear from them. But according to their website, the Downtown Detroit Partnership and the city don't pay for these. They're supported by ads while they're not being actively used. So like when I went by them, I saw ads for MoCAD and some other things around town. So I thought it was interesting to see this happen. It was responsive, which was great. There were lots of options for getting around. So you had transit, you had Uber, you had Lyft. There was connections to maps and shopping and all that stuff. It was the kind of kiosk that like downtown Detroit really needs, because when you've got a lot of visitors, people don't know where to go. You get into one corner of it. The street layout is different than most people are used to because it's not a grid and it's not suburban. It's kind of, that Woodward plan wheel. So I think this is a net positive. I first found out about these actually from our friends at Transit Guide Detroit, who saw those and gave them the thumbs up as far as, getting onto buses and stuff like that. So I think it's very attractive. I think it brings a level of like energy to downtown, and I appreciate that they're good, right? Like, if there's anything more disappointing is when somebody tries to set up an amenity and then it completely falls short of expectations.
Queue line.
I was actually really impressed by these.
Well, that's good to hear, Jerry. I think these can be a great addition. They encourage kind of the self-guided tour approach to Detroit, where you can wander around, which I like doing, but then you also get a little bit of help while you're doing that and kind of point out some points of interest and let you kind of experience the city that way. So, I mean, it's not as good as bumping into you or I wandering around downtown, but I think it can be a worthy replacement when we're not available, right?
Well, the interesting thing about Greater Downtown to Downtown Detroit is that it is both a neighborhood and a destination. And there's going to be a few of those in the city, but downtown really has that dual use role. Something we didn't get into in a podcast with Chase Cantrell that he wanted to make sure he said on air, but we just totally, didn't get to it, is that I think a lot of people forget that downtown Detroit is a neighborhood and that people live there. And so you've really got to balance both of the needs of, residents and new people and help people around. And I think not only is it a positive, I think this is the beginning of the bottom line baseline of what you should have. I wouldn't even say this is a fancy add-on. This is the beginning of what you should have as a major downtown.
Yeah, you're completely right, Jared. And I just think about when I've talked to Jeanette Pierce in the past and how, Detroit really never had a proper welcome center. And Detroit Experience Factory tried to be that for a while. But like, come on, like the least we can have is some kiosks to help people who are around and a welcome center to be kind of a central point of starting. So we lost the welcome center. I'd like to get that back. But these kiosks are certainly going to be a positive, I think.
All right, let's talk about marijuana in Michigan. There's some new statistics and numbers I wanted to share. There are a number of Michigan cities that allow recreational marijuana sales. And part of the deal is they get to split some of the revenue from that, tax revenue. The number this year is $42 million. Some local places that will be getting revenue. Ferndale is going to get $169,000 because they have 3 marijuana businesses. Hamtramck with 4 gets $226,000. Madison Heights with 2 gets $113,000. They expect recreational sales in 2022 to soar to $2 billion, and that's up from $1.2 billion last year. Also, the city of Detroit is expected to approve in April a revised ordinance to allow more marijuana sales and businesses. If you remember, we had Councilman James Tate on the show who was spearheading this. We walked through all of it. We got real nerdy. I'll make sure, go back in the archive and check that out. Out of Southwest Detroit, Councilwoman Gabrielle Santiago Romero recently has been very vocal to get this passed sooner than later. She highlights that there are a number of entrepreneurs, especially those Black and brown, who have been waiting for a very long time to get this done. Now in the suburbs, Hotbox Social is opening this month for private events. It is Michigan's first licensed consumption lounge located in downtown Hazel Park at 23610 John R. It can hold about 200 people right now, and they're going to open up about 5,000 more square feet in the summer. That means they'll have 8,000 square feet of consumption space. It's owned by a group called Trucenta. They also operate the nearby Breeze dispensary. And so if you're going to go to this thing, you've got to have the cannabis delivered from a licensed dispensary. How convenient. And used on site. And of course, they'll have their cannabis experts and all that kind of thing. But a new kind of event space, Devon.
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm smiling reading this because it sounds. I mean, this is obviously is not my realm. I'm very curious because the way they're talking about this, cannabis experts will be available to help you understand how to make an informed decision. I kind of want to get a little bit high, but I don't want to do this, but I want to feel good. Like, I don't know how this is going to go.
Do we need to meet up at Hotbox Social and bring ourselves a food truck with us?
Yeah, I think we should. And we'll talk to one of these cannabis experts and make sure we're getting the product that's right for us. So we're not, I don't know what, tripping out there. I don't know.
All right, before we let people go, we have our bold predictions, our ideas of what could happen in Detroit. And Devon, you've got a big one.
The question has been asked for years now, as long as I've been kind of working around downtown, has always been if and when Detroit will be ready for an Apple store. And what I'm hearing is that the answer is yes and soon.
Really?
What I'm hearing is, we saw the kind of exit of the Madewell store on Woodward there, and what I'm hearing is that is possibly going to be an Apple store, which would be just it. Jerry, I want the listeners to kind of understand what this means, because the Apple store has always been this kind of golden goose. And I remember in like 2013, 2014, there was always the redevelopment conversation of like, well, would Detroit ever be able to have an Apple store? Like, are we going to become that kind of city? Could Woodward actually be that type of commercial corridor? And it seemed, highly unlikely at that time, because even back in 2014, Woodward was pretty sparse. So to actually see this potentially come into fruition is a big deal. And again, whether you like him or not, you would have to credit Uncle Dan Gilbert, because he had been kind of talking about this, for a long time now, to say when he has these retail spaces, he's really being intentional about curating them with big time tenants. He wants to make a splash, and this would be quite a splash.
So to be clear, we're still in speculation territory here. I will add to this that I don't think Madewell shut for lack of sales. I would also note, because I'm kind of an Apple fanboy, I'll fully admit it, that even though the average Apple store is like 8,000 square feet, there are ones that are as small as like 540 square feet. So like something in that like smaller footprint could totally work. And if there's anything we've known, like those smaller footprint stores totally seem to have worked in downtown Detroit recently.
Yeah, maybe, and maybe that's the part that we're missing on the speculation, is maybe this will be maybe a one-off or a different type of Apple store format. Maybe it won't be the traditional Apple store. Don't know. Again, we're just speculating, but I've heard some things, and that's really exciting.
It would be very exciting. I still am a little bit skeptical, but Apple is doing a ton of new stuff when it comes to developer academies. We've talked to somebody from Apple on the show. They recently have a new thing working with minority businesses and bringing those on. We highlighted that in the newsletter. Like, there is a real push by Apple to be involved in Detroit in various ways. And if anything, it's self-serving to have a place that can do service and all that other kind of stuff when you're investing in so much footprint in the city. It would be self-serving to have that a few blocks away. So that kind of leads to the multiple reasons that they would do this, even though I will still say I'm more skeptical than you are at this point. We'll be on different sides of this speculation train.
Well, that's okay, Jared. Maybe I'm still drinking some of the Kool-Aid from the Ford tour, because I will say, and I'm not even speculating, but I am saying that, Ford is definitely looking at bringing the biggest logos and names you can think of to have a presence on that Michigan Central campus. And so if Apple's doing more in the community, I wouldn't be surprised if there's been conversations with Ford and Apple. I don't know anything about that, but I know that Ford is basically saying what are the best and brightest companies that we can come partner with here, or we can bring to partner with us here. So maybe there's a conversation there.
So, another piece of conversation I want to have, and I've gotten this piece of feedback from the inbox a lot of times with people who think that it's only Dan Gilbert who's been pushing downtown development and that there would be nothing but for Dan. And although Dan has done a lot, I think we need to highlight that there has been a lot more than Dan. Like, if you've got Beacon Park, that's DTE. You've got all the stuff happening at Ford. You've got things happening at the Fisher building that, yes, he is a catalyst and he's somebody who's little out of spark, but I think you would be wrong to say that, he is all of it. And then I would also mention, being an old timer, I remember when people thought that Peter Karmanos was crazy. And then I have to shout out the head of the Downtown Detroit Partnership, Cindy Paskey, who has been in downtown Detroit with thousands of employees for more than a quarter century. So I feel like Dan was at the right time, and he definitely put more money in, but I believe he's at the middle of the continuum.
I agree with you, Jared. I do think, though, the kind of secret sauce for him maybe as simple as the money, but
it's billions of dollars, Devon. It's a secret sauce. You just pour the money into a sriracha bottle, blend it, and then drink it.
That's one hell of a sriracha bottle. But no, Jared, but seriously, I think there is something to what he's able to do. And it's literally these large projects, things like the Hudson site and the Shinola development. There are things that Dan can do that literally no other individual can feasibly do. And that's where he can throw his weight around in terms of, who else can personally finance a multi-billion-dollar construction project? I mean, so he's the only one who can do that type of stuff.
I completely agree as far as scale, but I think it's really easy to fall into the who sends out the most press releases thing.
Sure.
Because a lot of the people who have been doing things in the city, I was talking to somebody who is doing a commercial space over on Grand Boulevard. Like, there isn't tons of press releases and things out about it. And in general, the mainstream media covers what they get a press release about. I think it's so funny because I'll see articles pop up in different places, and then I'll get the same press release everybody else got. And then you'll see like the 1-to-1 there, right? And I think people need to know that, like, a big way of getting covered is you just send a press release.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're with the sriracha bottle full of money, you're also going to have the best press team, and that's well and good. But you are completely correct, Jared, in that there's a lot of stuff that goes, underreported or underheralded in terms of development that's happening on a smaller scale, but just as important for those communities and the people who use those services and frequent those businesses.
Before you go, both Apple Podcasts and Spotify have star ratings. So if you want to drop us at Daily Detroit 5 stars, it'd be great. Also, thanks to Fletcher Sharp, Randy Walker, Cheyenne Nocerini, plus, of course, those who have supported us at patreon.com/dailydetroit and buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit if you want to do a one-time thing. It takes a village to keep a show like this on the air. And Devon, I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jared, for appreciating me. Thanks, everyone, for listening. With that, I am Devon O'Reilly.
And I'm Jared Stays. Have a great weekend. You are somebody, and I'll see you around Detroit.